Point of order, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome today's vote. Parliament has clearly spoken.
Order, apologies. The Prime Minister was heard. Yes, he was. Don't argue the toss with the chair. I'm telling you what the situation is, and everybody could detect. The Prime Minister was heard, and the Leader of the Opposition will be heard. It is as simple and unarguable as that. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome today's vote. It's an emphatic decision by this House that has declined to back the Prime Minister's deal today and clearly voted to stop a no-deal crash-out from the European Union. The Prime Minister must now comply with the law. He can no longer use the threat of a no-deal crash-out to blackmail members to support his sellout deal. Labour is not prepared to sell out the communities that we represent. We're not prepared to sell out their future. And we believe that ultimately the people must have the final say on Brexit, which actually only the Labour Party is offering. Today is an historic day for Parliament because it said it will not be blackmailed by a Prime Minister who is apparently prepared once again to defy a law passed by this Parliament. I invite him to think very carefully about the remarks he just made about refusing, apparently, to apply for the extension which the EU No. 2 Act requires him to do.
Point of order, Mr. Ian Blackford. Yes,
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm most grateful. I think all of us in this House are aware of the responsibilities that we have. This is a crisis that we are in. And I'm thankful that the House has voted the way it has done on the amendment this afternoon. There is a clear expression from this House that we cannot crash out on the 31st of October. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask you what we can do to make sure that the Prime Minister respects the law of the land, that the Prime Minister respects the Benn Act and sends a letter to the European Council seeking that extension. And I wonder what we can do to make sure that the government does not bring forward a bill until that extension, as has been instructed, is delivered upon. And any failure of a Prime Minister who thinks he's above the law, well, Prime Minister, you'll find yourself in court.
I don't mean it in any spirit of discourtesy to the right honourable gentleman, but I think his contribution was rhetorical in the sense that I don't think he was particularly inviting my immediate response. If he was doing so, I would say to him that I think judicious consideration of these matters is always beneficial to colleagues across the House. Everybody, of course, must abide by the law. The right honourable gentleman is versatile, dexterous and experienced in the use of the parliamentary weaponry to try to ensure that his point of view prevails. So we'll leave it there for now. Point of order, Jo Swinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's deal was a bad deal, and the public deserve to have the final say, not just the hundreds of thousands who are marching outside, but the millions of people across our country.
Order, I recognise there are very strongly held views on both sides of the House and on both sides of this debate, but the leader of the Liberal Democrats must be heard, and it is unconscionable if there is an attempt to stop someone being heard. Jo Swinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the people who are outside this building right now will be heard, and they deserve the final say, along with millions across the country. So the most urgent thing right now, Mr. Speaker, is that the Prime Minister complies with the law. And I ask your guidance. Would it be possible to suspend the sitting for a short time to allow the Prime Minister to go and send his letter and come back and make a statement to the House to confirm that he has done so?
I'm grateful to the honourable lady. It is not my intention to suspend the sitting. The point will have been heard by the Prime Minister. I say to the honourable lady, all sorts of things are possible, but as to what is judged appropriate at this time, I think the puckish grin on the contours of the honourable lady's face suggests that she was making a point but not expecting such a decision. I'm grateful to... of course I will come to the... momentarily. Of course I will come to the honourable gentleman. A point of order, Sir Oliver Letwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say first of all to the Prime Minister that I actually agreed with what he said at the end there, and that I'm absolutely certain he will comply with the law. I want to say to friends and colleagues across the House who helped us achieve this amendment, which I believe to be profoundly in the national interest, that I'm very grateful for that cooperation, but that our ways are now going to part. Because for many of us on these benches who have cooperated in preventing a no-deal exit by putting in place or helping to put in place the Ben Act and helping to keep its insurance policy in place today, now when the Prime Minister brings the withdrawal implementation bill to the House of Commons, we will be voting for it. We will continue to vote for it. We will seek to ensure that it becomes the law before the 31st of October, and if it does so become the law, this country will leave on the 31st of October, of hope that I share with the Prime Minister, but it will do so on the basis of knowing that should anything go wrong, we will not crash out without a deal on that date.
I'm most grateful to the right honourable gentleman and say, well, many members of the House for the clarity of his exposition. People take their own view of it, but it's certainly clear and very pithy, and I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman. Point of order, Mr. Nigel Dodds.
Speaker, this decision now will give further time for detailed consideration of the bill when it comes forward. It will also give an opportunity to consider in detail whatever amendments come forward. It has the effect of not approving this deal today. And of course, we will examine all the details of the bill and all amendments in the light of our overriding concern about the constitutional economic integrity of the Union. That is our priority. It will remain our priority in the days ahead, and that is the basis on which we will now proceed in a timely and sensible manner.
I'm grateful. Our proceeding, I hope the honourable gentleman will take it in the right spirit. If, having known him for over 20 years, I say that I feel that our proceedings would not be complete without a point of order from the honourable gentleman, the member for Stone, the chair of the European Scrutiny Committee. Well, somebody is suggesting a division, but I will not allow a division on that matter. Point of order, Sir William Cash.
There is much talk about the law of the land. The law of the land, as it stands at this moment in time, is quite simple. Section 1 of the Withdrawal Act 2018 categorically states that the European Communities Act is repealed on exit day, which is the 31st of October, just in case anyone can't read.
Well, he's grateful, and I'm sure the House will be indebted to the honourable gentleman for his legal exegesis. There are other views on that matter, but the honourable gentleman has registered his with his customary force. Point of order, Joanna Cherry.
Mr. Speaker,
if members who are leaving the chamber, I understand the disappointment of the honourable and learned lady, but I cannot compel members to remain. I cannot, to coin a phrase, take anybody hostage. I do not have the power to incarcerate. So I'm trying to be helpful to the honourable and learned lady. I'm playing for time. If members who, quite unaccountably, do not wish to listen to the honourable and learned lady would leave the chamber quickly and quietly, the rest of us, including assuredly the chair, wishing to hear the honourable lady, can do so. I think people are gradually beetling out of the chamber. If the chair of the Education Select Committee feels that he can beetle out and conduct his conversation outside, that will be very greatly appreciated by the chair. Thank you. Point of order, Joanna Cherry.
Thank you for your indulgence. Viewers in Scotland are accustomed to the sight of the Tory benches emptying when speakers, members of Parliament representing Scottish seats get up, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that in the SNP's party political broadcasts in the soon-to-come general election.